My name's Michael Hoskinson. Thanks for tuning in. I am the owner and founder of K9 Control Dog Training, and this is K9 Convos. Thank you all very much for tuning in. Today we have a very special guest, a longtime friend of mine, I guess a bit of a dog lover.
A little bit.
A little bit. Lance Montee, thank you so much for showing up. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Man, we were talking earlier. We had lunch, and we've known each other for a while now.
Long time.
Yeah.
Gee, yeah.
It's been a while, huh?
Yeah. My son was in kindergarten?
They were in kinder, I think. And so now seniors. So it's been a minute.
We're getting old.
That's the alternative isn't any good. So what do you do for a living?
Well, for the past 23 years, I've been in law enforcement. For 18 of those 23 years, I've been working dogs.
Nice. 18 years.
18 years.
So you know a little bit about a dog?
A little bit. I'm still learning.
Yeah. Well,
I'm always learning.
That's actually super important for people to understand because it's never over, is it?
Nope. It's never over. And if you think that you know it all, you don't know it all.
You don't. Absolutely agree with that 1,000%. So 18 years running a dog. Got any memorable moments?
Oof.
What about a big drug seizure? You got a big one?
Yeah, actually, several of them. But one of the ones I can think of off the top of my head, my dog that I have actually now, when I first got him, we got on the streets and the DEA asked for assistance. And we went and used him at a local, well, not local, it was in this area, warehouse or storage unit area. Mm-hmm. And he got the alert. They got a warrant, and I think it was 90 to 100 pounds of liquid meth. So that's pretty good. And so I had just gotten my dog, and they're give or take about $20,000. That was worth well over $1 million, and he paid for himself.
Boom, right there.
Oh yeah,
that was awesome. So the feds had to call in the locals to get their job done, huh?
Yeah, so the feds do have dogs, but sometimes, we work in collaboration. We help them all the time. And, whenever you have a semi-good reputation or a good reputation, they'll call for you. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think for as long as I've known you, you have been called out for several different departments for work with your dog, especially for those that don't have one. It seems like you were always on call for somebody going somewhere middle of the night.
Yeah, because not everybody has dogs, and sometimes even if they do have dogs, those the handlers may be out of town or whatever. So we work close with local agencies. If they call us, we're going to go.
Awesome. Okay, so that's a big drug seizure.
That's pretty good. Yeah, pretty
That's
big.
Not bad.
I mean, it's not like 100 million.
Do you know who Brad Pitt is?
I do.
The dog?
Oh, no, I thought you were talking about the movie star.
No. Brad Pitt, DPS.
Oh,
dog.
Actually,
have you heard of him?
Yes, I have. I actually have, yes.
So that's the DPS officer I alluded to that I know.
Oh, he's going to be coming here.
He is going to be coming here at some point.
So he will probably have a lot more cool stories because he's always on the highway.
Yep.
And he is actually looking for stuff.
That's all he does.
Yeah.
He goes out looking for it.
Yeah. So when I worked down south in Hillsboro, I used to chase that a lot on the highway. Mm-hmm. But he's going to have a lot more cooler stories because I'm sure that
dog stacks drugs.
Oh,
it's absolutely. I think last time I talked to him, I think he said the next 3 dogs in Texas don't combine for what he gets in a year.
Oh yeah,
it's amazing. No. And Brad Pitt's he's a machine, but he's got a screw loose. I mean, he's scary.
Now he's a dual purpose?
No, he's
single?
He is single.
Okay.
That's his only task is to find drugs and tear up a towel when he gives it to him. That's his bumper. He like the little white terry cloth towels.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's got about 300 of them in the back of his truck in a box, and that's all he wants. Just where's my terry cloth towel?
That's cool.
And you know why he has 300 of them? Because once Brad has one, he ain't giving it back. That's awesome. So what about, because you have a dual purpose dog. Mm-hmm. So you want to explain a little bit about what that means, single purpose, dual purpose?
Yeah, so a single purpose dog would be like if that dog is trained to locate the odor of certain narcotics or bombs or what have you.
Right.
A dual purpose would be where if the dog is trained for that and also tracking or apprehension, and article searches, stuff like that. So you're combining a lot more of the training for these dogs than just focusing on one. You're focusing on multiple.
And generally, just so people know, that's generally going to be like your Shepherds, your Mals, your Dutchies. Not very many dual purpose labs, I don't think.
No, I've never seen. The labs are great dogs, but the only time I've seen what labs are used for is single purpose and looking for narcotics or
TSA has a lot of them.
Yeah, I was TSA at the airports, looking for fruit and stuff like that.
Yes, bad fruit coming over from another country. Yeah. It's illegal. Yes. Okay, so do they have any tri-purpose dogs out there?
I mean, I guess you could say it's tri-purpose.
There's bombs because you go bomb, apprehension, and then drug.
Yeah, you can't do that. So you can't. It wouldn't be a good idea to have a drug detection dog and a bomb detection dog.
Depends if you have passive or active alerts.
Well, I've seen a lot of times where a dog they're supposed to be passive, and all of a sudden they're like, well, that's a bomb. You're in trouble. So yeah, we don't mix those two together usually.
Fair enough.
It wouldn't be wise.
Because what's funny is I'm just trying to figure out where dogs are at today. I've been out of the game for a while, but back in the day, I mean, there were hardly any dual purpose dogs. They were all single because they didn't think the dog could handle both jobs.
Yeah.
So now it's like if most every dog I see come out's dual purpose.
Yeah.
For the PDs anyway. PD, Sheriff's Department, I mean.
Yeah, it depends on your PD and Sheriff's Department. If they want, some just want a single purpose dog. They just want to go find the drugs in their city or on the highway.
I'm assuming that eliminates liability.
Probably.
Apprehension.
Yeah, I mean, you look at
medical and.
Yeah, if you look at California right now, they're having a lot of issues.
California.
Where
is that part of the United States?
That's
where my FF trainers are from. They all originate there, California.
Well, then they understand.
Yes,
but no. So it depends on your agency. For my agency, we have dual purpose dogs, and they're trained to find people, apprehend them with their teeth or bite them. And then they're trained to find illegal narcotics, what they're trained on.
Nice. Still train them on marijuana?
So a few years ago, my chief at the time, we talked about it, and you can train. There's different theories out there, but for me, I was like, I see the trend. We see the trend. We see what's coming in the near future. It may not be soon, but it's coming.
Right.
So we'll just use our own nose, because if you train a dog up in the odor of marijuana, and there's people that are going to disagree with me when they hear this, but that's okay. Then they legalize it, and now you cannot use that dog to continue, because now he's trained in the odor of marijuana.
Yep.
So some people say, well, you can train that out of them. Okay, maybe so. And maybe you can do it. You can have all the paperwork to say that my dog is not trained out anymore. But if my dog is that same dog and he alerts to a vehicle on the street and there's marijuana in that vehicle along with whatever other illegal narcotics there may be, a defense attorney is going to use that against that officer, and they're going to.
It's going to take away your probable cause.
Right. All you need is reasonable doubt.
Yep.
And now you've got.
He hit on the marijuana and not.
Right.
You didn't know my guy was he had a gun in there and it just shot somebody.
Yeah.
Right.
And so you lose all the stuff.
That's funny too, because I heard talk of that too. Is like we'll deprogram the dog, called deprogramming, to take something away from us so they're not going to do it anymore. I don't think that's if the dog's worth a lick of salt. I don't think you're doing that. I think the dog's always going to be like, no, marijuana is one of the things I hit on.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I've heard just kind of through the grapevine, people I talk to, it's like, yeah, we're just going to totally go away from it. Because like you said, my nose is as good as theirs when it comes to that. I mean, there's not much fooling that. Okay, so apprehension. Any big names? Get any Al-Qaeda or anything?
No. If you've ever seen the Delta dogs, amazing. We've seen them in action before. Some of them, they come into town periodically and do some training, and those dogs are cool.
It's crazy, huh?
Those dogs are cool.
It's a whole different level.
But those dogs and those trainers, the handlers, that's all they do. They train. I only train once a week or so with my dog, and I got a family and everything else. But their sole job is to train every single day.
Yep.
I don't have that luxury.
Yeah. Well, it's a war machine, just like its operator is, and that's all they do.
Yep.
And they're prepared for anything at any given time, and the dog's going to perform flawlessly almost.
Oh, yeah.
It's amazing to watch. Yeah. If anybody's ever had a chance to watch any of those dogs work, that's just that. The civilian watching you work your dog, you're like, oh my God, it's the best dog in the world. That's amazing. But then you go and watch somebody like Delta run, and you're like, oh my God, you're the best dog in the world, right?
How do you do that?
How do you do that, right? And it's crazy though. But there's always that level. But have you had any big name apprehensions? Have you got anybody good?
No. So
I'm sure you've took plenty of bad guys off.
So
street.
my dog Bullet and I, and it wasn't me. It was my dog. We were involved in a deal back in 2014, 15, somewhere around there. The guy had hurt his girlfriend, wife, whatever, and we were called. He had already left the scene. They go to his house. They find him in the car. He bolts into his house out the back door, and so they set a perimeter up. And so we have, in order to use my dog or any law enforcement dog to apprehend somebody, we have to give ample opportunity for that person to surrender.
Right.
But they'll set a perimeter up, and it also has to be a good offense, not something minor. It's got to be something really really
for sure.
And so, since the lady was sent to the hospital and she was bleeding all over the place, we felt that was a good offense to use my dog. So, set a perimeter up, and we end up having a helicopter come out and assist us as well. The helicopter actually located the person in a yard adjacent to where we were, and we ended up getting repositioning all of our guys. Long story short, once the plan was in place, we realized that he was armed with a knife, and he had called his mother and said he was not going to go out with a fight. So at that point, there's no reason to use my dog at this point. We're just going to go guns in. If the dog is needed as a secondary tool, then we can use him at that point. So we had the plan was set. We put it in motion, and as we get to the gate, it was locked. Well, it was only a 4.5-foot fence, so it wasn't too tall. My dog Bullet was already an odor. He was pulling me. I knew he was an odor, so I made the decision I'm just going to throw him over the fence because it was easy to do that. And he took off, went around the corner where the guy was hiding at. He was actually in a fetal position with his back up against a sliding glass door, and my dog snatched onto him.
Kind of like a little snack.
Well, maybe for him, because everything's a game for them.
Absolutely.
But anyway, so once he got on, the guy kicked, he came off, and he reattached to his calf, and at that point, he was not letting go. As we came around the corner, we had the bird with a spotlight at that point, and now it was daytime because that light is really bright, kind of like these brights. I'm just kidding. So anyway, whenever that happened, we could see the knife in his hand. We told him to drop the knife. He dropped the knife. We got the dog off. He had taken a chunk of his calf out, and ended up losing, I think, 15% use of his leg after that. He later came back and sued me personally. And after a 4-year lawsuit, which my department, kudos to my chief at that time, he completely
stood by you. Huh?
He stood by me. He fought it, and we won eventually. Yep. So it's great bathroom material. It's called Escobar v. Montee.
Okay,
it's good material. The only thing I was upset about was they called Bullet a German Shepherd.
Oh, God, them mal handlers. Don't
nothing against the German Shepherds, but he was a Malinois, not a German Shepherd.
Bullet was a machine, dude.
Bullet, man, he
was a machine.
He was one of those diamonds in the rough, and I wish I would have bred him because he would have had some pretty cool.
Yeah, he was an amazing dog. He is like, because even our conversation earlier kind of led some different areas about temperaments on dogs and stuff that we see these days in the field. And Bullet's temperament just reminded me of so old school. I mean, that he'd sit there and play with kids.
Oh, yeah.
You used to take him to the school all the time, and he'd sit there and go into a classroom full of fourth graders and be like, what's everybody doing? I'm just every other dog. Yeah, until he hears those lights and sirens going, and then he goes into that different mode. He just snaps into work mode. But yeah, he was an awesome, awesome dog. So what kind of training do you go through to be able to handle a canine?
So when I first started out, I had no idea what I was doing. And I to be honest with you, I never planned on my goal in life was not to be a canine handler. I was the whole reason I went to the place I went to, which in South Lake, they were police, fire, and EMS. So I had gone there to get a dual certification and to be all three. Well, when I got there, somebody had picked up on my knack for chasing dope, and not that there's a lot of dope out in South Lake, but it is out there. It's everywhere. So I was encouraged to take the canine. They were opening a canine spot. I was encouraged to take it. I did. I didn't make it, but they had taken a puppy, and they wanted to bring him in. Well, we got a puppy here. We'll just make him into a police dog.
Okay.
We'll cut corners, and we'll save money, and this will work.
DIY, baby.
Yeah, it didn't work. So actually, it did work in my favor because the new handler that got the dog, he was a puppy. He was at a really nice apartment complex, and I guess what do puppies do when they're small and young? They bark, they whine. So whenever you have a lot of people complaining, the apartment management basically said, either get rid of the dog or break your lease. Yep. And I'm assuming, I guess it was a pretty stout fine for breaking the lease because I got a call from my sergeant later on, probably a week after we had taken the review boards. And he said, hey, are you still interested in the position? I'm like, let me talk to my wife. And she gave me the green light, and I've been in doing 18 years now. So the dog at that time, he was a puppy. I was green. I was a green handler.
Sure.
Is this really green?
No, not green. It is for you right now.
This is really green. So I was as green. I was green as this wall. I didn't know what I was doing. So I took the dog different places. We went to a guy by the name of Joe Johnson, who was an extremely knowledgeable handler at Fort Worth at the time, and we did some tests, and I never will forget. He takes a ball or a Kong, he throws it, and the puppy he goes after it, but then he stops, and there's no kidding, there's a butterfly on this little plant, and he just stops and he starts looking at it, and so his drive was not nearly where it needed to be. So at that point, Joe, he looked at me, he said, well, good news, bad news. I was like, all right, what's the good news? He's like, he's a really good dog. What's the bad news? He is not going to be a police canine. So we gave him up, gave him to a patrol officer at the time, and he went and lived his life as a pet. And then I actually went to a school down in Mississippi.
Okay.
Am I allowed to say names? I'm okay with that?
Okay. Yeah.
But Bubba Hal, great guy. I learned a lot from him, and that's where my training started.
How long was that class that you took?
The class that I took was a month.
Okay.
So I was there for a month, learned the ins and outs of what you can be taught within a month.
Right.
But from there, the training, even up to present, you're just continue to learn from different people on how to do different things. One way that is taught to me may not work for my dog.
Right.
Another way, this may work, and I can try that. And that's one thing I try to tell these younger handlers coming into what we do is that, hey, just because I tell you something that this worked for me, it may not work for you. Have an open mind. Don't just say, and I tell the veteran guys, hey, it's not your way or the highway. It's, hey, if this doesn't work, all right, let's try this.
The common thing in my circle is train the dog in front of you.
Yeah.
Not all the dogs. Train the one in front of you because that one's going to respond and act differently. It needs different motivation. It needs different correction. It needs different whatever than X, Y, and Z's dog does. So understanding that early on is definitely key to being successful long-term with a dog. Now, so you did four weeks there at the very beginning. Have you gone to other schools or classes and learned more since then?
Yes. So once I went to that class, and by that time, I think I had gotten a German Shepherd, a black German Shepherd.
Oh, you're slumming it with a shepherd at the
I was
time.
slumming with a shepherd.
Well, you know.
His name was Marshall. Great dog. We got back from our training. He had come from overseas. And so typically what happens from when they come from overseas, they've already had some training a little bit.
Reined in a little.
Not much. So when they get to the U.S., they really start honing in on the different things they want them to be trained in. And so they've already had probably 3 to 4 weeks of training before I even get there. So once I get there, this dog's already imprinted on certain odors that I want him to be imprinted on,
Right.
For the streets. And then I get there and I continue the training with him, and I learn how to fix problems when they occur.
Right.
How to notice problems.
That's why they call you a handler. You're handling things.
Exactly. And eventually, I ended up doing more schools. I actually, whenever we got back with the Marshall, about a month in, 2 months in, realized that he had fibrotic myopathy, which was a debilitating disease, and we had to get rid of him. So then I had to give him up, and I got another dog, which was a Mal. That was Gage. And then did the same thing, went back down to Mississippi, did some more training with him.
Nice.
Came back, and we were on the street for, I think, maybe 4 to 5 years, give or take. But so that training, and then eventually I ended up going, when I got another dog after Gage, I went to Hill Country Dog Center.
Okay.
Great place. That's where I ended up getting Bullet, and just one of the phenomenal dog that I had. And then so I've also been through a trainer's course down there, and that there's a lot that goes into that. That was a lot of information, and even as a veteran handler, even now I'm still learning new things.
100%.
I mean, I watch your episodes. I'm just like, holy cow, I got to try that. But so yeah, so you're always learning, and I don't know it all. So
Absolutely. So when you're just on a normal day doing your thing, is there any training that's like ongoing throughout the day, or is there anything that you do during a normal work day, not Wednesdays, but a normal work day that kind of helps keep you and your dog sharp working together? Or is it just kind of he acts like a civilian dog and runs around and goes crazy?
No, so we're constant. I could not have been in this job without my wife's support, because I spend more time with my dog than I do my family. I see my dog, not 24 hours a day, but pretty darn close.
Yeah.
I mean, from the time that I get up to the time we get ready to go to work, he's in the car with me and we're at work. When I'm not chasing calls or going after calls, helping officers, like last night, I've started working him on hard surface tracking, which he's actually been doing really good. So in my spare time that I have, I get out, I have one of my buddies lay a track, and we're out there just doing some training out there. Periodically, I'll have somebody, if we end up doing an alarm at a building and it's open, once we get everything cleared out, nobody's there, it's just a false alarm, waiting on the owners to get there to lock it up. Hey, you mind going and hide in the closet?
Yep.
And we'll do a little building search like that. So I'm always constantly teaching and training this dog, because I want him proficient for the job that I want him to do, and I want him to be good at it. And so,
Absolutely. You're going to run him at a higher, your level of expectation of your dog is high.
oh yeah, especially for what he did.
So that means that you have to run at a higher engagement with your dog than a normal person to keep him where he's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Keep that relationship where it needs to be. Are your dog skills, is that a diminishing skill?
If you don't, so I can go on vacation 3 weeks, and I can bring that dog back into the environment that he's been trained in, that we work in. He actually does pretty good. All the dogs I've had, I've always like, well, I've been gone for a while, I don't know if he's going to pick it up or not. They're good because they're constantly doing that.
What about your handling skills? Are those diminishing? Are they more diminishing than his?
Sometimes, as a handler, we get complacent. It's like certain things in the field, you always have, and that's one good thing about training with other handlers, is your buddies realize, hey, look at this. And sometimes we'll actually video ourselves
Oh, absolutely.
to look at, oh, yeah, I need to be doing that.
Man, that's one of the biggest tools I tell my clients all the time. Just video it. Just your homework that I give you, video it. If you're having trouble with something, video it. Send me the video. Let me look at it. I'll give you feedback, and I'll tell you what I'm looking at, what I see, and then you go back and watch yourself do it, and then have my words in your head, and you're like, oh, I see what you're talking about. But I tell them all the time, you don't even know what you're doing half the time. You're so focused on this or that you don't know exactly everything that's going on around you. And that's one of those things that makes it hard in your line of business. You're so focused on that dog and so consumed with making sure he stays on odor and he's not getting off track and stuff like that just gets a little dangerous, a little hairy out there sometimes, I would think.
It can. Yeah, you've always got to be on your toes, whether I'm a handler or not. I've always got to be on my toes and expect the unexpected, but always be prepared. So, but we're just constantly training these dogs to, because whenever we're in the field, certain things we can do during training where we can't do it in the field, especially for legality purposes and all that, especially in the dope area. But yeah.
So, synthetic or non-synthetic drugs? What do you trade on?
Non-synthetic.
Oh, the real deal. Huh?
Yeah. So, again, there's different theories, different opinions on that out there. I want my dog trained in the I want my dog trained in what we're actually looking for out in the field.
The most realistic thing. I need to train him what he's looking for.
Right. So, and for your viewers, these dogs we don't put them on drugs, on cocaine or like that. They know the odor because we pair it with a toy that they like. But these dogs are safe. We don't put them in a bad situation because when they're finding the odor, all they're doing is finding their toy. But yeah, no, we use.
Describe to them how that works. What's going on in the dog's mind? What is going on?
Without giving too much, because I know some of your viewers may not be. Anyway, I'm not going to say anything. So I won't give too much information. But basically, if you want to train your dog to find your dirty socks, at best, a mind of a 3 to 5 year old, for your dog. So you're training this dog to he loves his toy. He's got a good ball drive. So I'm going to pair the toy and let's say the odor of the sock together. And so once the dog understands that this odor and this odor is the same, then I can take one of those odors out of the equation. And now whenever he finds that odor that he's looking for and he gets a reward with his toy,
right?
He understands, oh, okay, this is my toy. I sit down or I scratch or whatever I'm trained to do, and I get my reward. So in their mind, they think, okay, whenever I find that odor, I sit down, and all of a sudden my toy just appears.
Yep.
And they get praise. The handler gets all crazy and, oh, they got boy. And they're all excited because the dogs, all of our dogs that work for us, they love the praise. It's like your child.
Absolutely.
At home. If they do something good, you give them praise. Sometimes it's usually in monetary amounts. But other times, man, hey, that was a great job. I'm proud of you.
Yep. So it's what I tell my clients, it's called association.
Yeah.
They are associating a word, a phrase, an odor with an object.
Right.
So what all the dog is doing is saying, basically what happens is the dog smells, we'll just use marijuana to keep it simple. Dog smells marijuana, and the next thing he knows, marijuana turns into his ball. So he's like, hey, go soak me some marijuana or whatever.
Right.
And all the dog is thinking in his head is, when I find it, I get my ball. When I find it, I get my ball or my bumper or my tug, whatever the dog's motivation is.
Right.
It's just a game, right?
Yep.
And he's like, you get him out of the car and you're like, go find the drugs. Do you train yours in German or you just you back to this standard Old English?
No. Our dogs, my dog's was trained in Dutch, so why?
Oh, Deutsch.
Keep it simple, stupid.
Yep.
So why
100%
am I going to try to
day.
train him something else?
Yep.
When I could just learn his language and
be done. And move forward. But it's all a game. So the reward for finding, And see, this is what people have a hard time understanding is I tell this all the time. It's just a game. Someone's winning, someone's losing. The dog's either winning the game or losing the game. So for a dog, what is the win when you send him on a track?
The win for him is either the finding of the object, which would be the person, whether that's he finds him and the guy surrenders and I'm holding him back and with a leash and he's still doing that barking and I'm, oh, good boy, get him, good boy, get him. Or he finds him and he actually gets to play with him.
Engage, yeah.
He gets to engage him. That's his ultimate reward.
Oh, absolutely. The thrill is not in the chase, it's in the catch.
Yep.
And end result, all dogs are playing for it. And that's what's unique to dogs is civilian dogs still have a meaning or purpose for what they're doing, always. So your dog wants something in the end, and I want to go do this so I can have this. And it's the same thing that people deal with every single day with their dog. Their dog is trying to do it on their terms, do it their way, and not listening to their owner/handler, and it makes it very difficult for that relationship to thrive.
Yep.
And I just see it time and time again where that lack of structure doesn't allow for a good relationship between a human and a dog. Talk a little bit about that relationship that you have with your working dogs. How does the dog actually view you?
So, well, the dog views me as I'm the pack leader. I'm leader of the pack. And
I'm going to have to stop you there. There's going to be some people out there that entirely disagree with that philosophy 100%.
Well, they can disagree with it, but that's how it is.
They've had dogs their whole lives, and they've read an article, and that article said that there's not an alpha in charge of anything.
Well, I beg to differ.
Your experience will tell you different.
Listen, I am not an expert by any means. I don't do the scientific stuff, but what I do know is whenever and you go back and look at the wolves. I mean, there's always
they're social creatures. They're not pack animals either.
Okay,
things are changing.
This is
2024.
There's always a pack. It's like, okay, your viewers are going to love this.
Yes, they are. This is why we're doing it.
When you have a family, right? Mm-hmm. And in the Bible, it talks about, and I'm not trying to be religious here, but in the Bible, it talks about how the man is head of the household.
Yep.
So essentially, he is the pack leader.
Yeah.
Now, mom makes all the decisions.
Of course.
I mean, that's just
oldest female in the pack always runs it.
Exactly. But so same in the dog world. The dog world, you've got a leader of the pack. Whenever that leader is challenged, there's a fight because I've seen it. I've had to do it.
Yep.
And if you lose. If you and your dog end up having to go at it at one point and you lose, that's going to be a bad time.
Yep.
You're going to have a lot of issues.
100%.
And especially in my job with my dog, because the way he's trained, I can't afford to lose. I'm going to have a huge uphill battle of making that right. And so anyway,
someone's got to be in control in your relationship.
Somebody's got to be in control.
Someone has got to, and I find it so odd that we've gone down this road of it's just a social creature and don't tell it no and always ask it if it wants to may I pet you now? I mean, it's just got to the point where it's so ridiculous. But what I see a lot of though is the people that believe that and go down that road, their dogs suck. They're really not that good of dogs. They're not dogs that I would allow into my group class because they're out of control. The dog's doing what it wants when it wants, and then all of a sudden the humans will stop that, and the dog's like, well, I don't want to. So now what do? Now we're at this standoff because the dog's been winning all day long, doing what it wants to do. It's like you said, you can't let your dog take control and be the boss because he's going to find that very empowering and be like, I just want to stay here. I like this position. And that's the thing that's important is someone's got to keep the checks and balances in that relationship. Yours comes with a much higher liability than, say, a civilian dog does, but I don't know how many times a year I get called because their dog bit somebody, and that's a liability for someone. And it's because the dog is in control. The dog is making the decisions, not the human. And it's just so important for people to understand that dogs it is a pack. It is required that someone leads that pack. That's how it's going to happen. And the other thing I think that people don't understand is actually how much training is actually involved in just having a decent dog. Now, yours is obviously a specialty dog, a work dog, and it requires special training and hours of that training. But tell us what your Wednesdays are for you and what that looks like.
Wednesdays, basically, the entire for the most of the day. Whenever I start my work shift, we're going out. We've got a group of us that we all train together, and we put these dogs in realistic situations that they're going to find.
So it's other departments, other canine handlers,
other departments, other handlers. So there's probably at one point we had 17 of us, and whenever you have 17 teams, it's hard to get a lot of stuff done.
Sure.
So we had to split that up, and so now there's about 8 of us right now. But yeah, so we like today. Our agenda is, may I?
Yeah.
I think. Let's see. Matter of fact, I'll look it on it here. Our agenda today will be. Starting with muzzle work. So we put the dogs in muzzle. We do civil agitation because most of our dogs.
Did you say you're going to agitate your dog?
Oh, yeah.
Do you ask permission?
No.
Okay, just checking. I just did. Okay.
Most of our dogs have already had street apprehensions with bites, so we know they're going to bite. So we'll put them in muzzle so they can't. We can agitate them. We can have the decoy out of the suit and just in clothes like you're wearing. They can go hide somewhere or whatever scenario we put them in, and the dog can find them and try to, basically, they think in their mind they're getting to bite them.
Right.
They know that they can't because they get the muzzle on, but it helps the decoy not have to worry about getting bit and stuff like that. So then after that, we'll do a transition to tracking and tracking. So we'll do tracking later on after that, and then we'll do vehicle detection, which is narcotics in different areas of vehicles, and we use the dogs to find them. So
that's awesome. That is awesome. Can a drug dealer prevent your dog from smelling something, say, in their car?
So like masking, yeah, I mean, dogs aren't perfect, right?
No.
I mean, sometimes dogs have bad days just like you and I do. Sometimes their noses don't work because they've got a sinus infection or what have you. Can people put masking odors and stuff like that? Of course they can.
How effective is it?
No. No. I mean, they may get it by once or twice, but eventually, the dog's going to smell it. I mean, what I always tell when we do demos is a dog's nose, and you can argue this 100,000 times, a million times, whatever. A dog's nose can smell better than you and I. And the only way I can really put it is if you've got a hamburger in front of you, it's got all the fixings. You and I can smell that hamburger, just like the dog. However, the dog, whether it's my dog or your client's dogs at homes, viewers' dogs, they can smell that same thing, but they can separate each ingredient in their brain.
Yep.
And that we can't do that.
No, it's absolutely impossible for us to do it.
Yeah. So.
And that is what makes them so amazing. But that's also why your work time on a dog is shorter than what you might think too, because it's so brain killing to them. It's that they're not physically tired from doing it; they're mentally get exhausted from analyzing all that stuff they're keeping in there. They're like that. There's that and that and that and that. And then he's like, "I'm on the scent of meth, but." There's a bird over there in the tree, and I saw that cat, and I can smell that cat, but I need to stay on that meth.
Yeah.
And he's going through all of that, trying to maintain what his focus is to get his reward for it. It's their noses are pretty amazing. We had one, the guy wrapped a key in. There's at least 50 pounds of saran wrap. Like the shipping wrapper, right? But then there'd be a layer of cayenne, and then there was a layer of motor oil, and then there's a layer. And I mean, the dog walks up to the car and goes, "It's right there." Yeah, he's like, I'm sorry, but that's not getting me.
Yeah, I'm sure your buddy, that has Brad Pitt. He sees a lot of that. I don't see that very often in the city, the smaller city,
right?
But on the highway, you're going to see that all the time.
No, they try the best they can, and it's crazy the actual capability of that dog. Mm-hmm. And it's funny too, because when you've got one that works and knows how to, it's just like, well, stand back, let you go to work. I know you're going to find it, buddy.
Yep.
So have you ever had someone try to tell you your dog doesn't know what it's doing? It's like it didn't really hit.
You see those guys, girls during traffic stops. When you get your dog out, you can see them. They're like sweating. I remember one story. This is when I had Bullet. I was talking to a lady. And she had actually called me over there. She'd called me for something, so I went over there. And while we're over there, she said, "Oh, you have a dog?" I was like, "Yeah, you want to see him? And, because Bullet he had that on and off switch. He could be, as friendly as I could want him to be. So I got him out. She was petting him and all that. And while she's petting him, he started working. And I saw him start to work, and I'm like, So he goes up and he starts working because she was outside of her car, and he hits the back door and he just sits. I'm like, ma'am?
Ruh-roh, Raggy.
Long story short, she had some drugs inside of her car, and she ended up getting arrested.
From just wanting to pet the puppy.
Just wanted to pet the puppy. Yeah, that was pretty cool.
So that I was doing a demo. I was doing a demo with one of my dogs one time in front of this group. I don't remember what it was, but my dog was just sitting up in a stay, kind of up on this little stage or area where I was talking from, and that dog would hunt that tennis ball for anything. And I'm just walking by talking to people, and I had it in my pocket, and I was just talking to this lady, and I just, as we're talking, I kind of knelt down. She was sitting right, and we're talking, and I slipped that tennis ball in her purse and just kind of walked off. And so they were like, "Hey, can you do it? Show us what he does when you send him on a search." I'm like, well, yeah, that's no problem. And we talked about what the search would look like and how I'm going to watch him and see if he's on odor, make sure he stays on track if he is, and then what his alert would look like. He's just going to sit down and he's just going to stare at it. So we go up and down a few rows, and sure enough, we get there, and he just stops dead, sits down, and just stares at that purse. And I was like, oh, this is embarrassing. And she's like, what? I was like, that's his alert that there's drugs in that purse. Yeah. I mean, she was so good. People are like looking at her all funny and stuff. I was like, "Oh, put up your purse." And she opens it up, and that tennis ball was in there. And
that's funny.
That's what he was after. I was like, "Yeah, he found it in there." And she goes, "I can't believe he found it in there." I was like, "Yeah, it wasn't fooling him. He didn't even come close to walking by it."
Oh, it's funny what people do. I mean, we do demos at different places, and one of the places we do demos at is the Dallas Grand Jury every once in a while, and it's been several years. But we were doing a demo, and we had been fine. I got all my training aids and left. Well, I got a picture later on that day. Said, "Hey, did you leave your training aid here?" I'm like, "Oh crap!" So I look at the picture. Well, it's a bag of meth. I'm like, "That's not mine." Somebody in that grand jury.
It was Hunter Biden.
Do what?
It was Hunter Biden.
Oh, that's wrong. Somebody in there, I guess they got really scared and nervous that they ditched stuff
it?
and just, I'm like, what? No, not mine.
Oh.
So, yeah.
Well, that had to be unnerving when they're like, "Hey, did you leave it?" You're like, "Oh, I'm in such trouble."
Yeah, because you're responsible.
I left a baggie of meth. Ruh-roh.
Yeah, that wouldn't be good.
That's not going to have a hard talk with the captain about that, huh? Marnie, you're supposed to get it off the street, not leave it on the street.
My bad.
Have you ever had your dog out just off duty and it hits on something?
Yeah. I mean, well.
You ever had it hit when it really wasn't supposed to, or didn't think it was going to happen, and then all of a sudden? Again,
as always with Bullet, we were out at the park, and I remember we were walking by some cars, and again, his nose just kind of goes up, and he starts working. I'm like, "Oh no, we're not working."
Come on, buddy.
Come on. And and that's the thing. So the dogs, they don't understand what dope is.
No,
they just know it's my toy.
Yeah.
And so you're walking by a car and they smell that odor, they're like, "Oh, my toy's there.
My toy's over in that car. I need to go sit there, so now to get my toy out."
Now, as me, I'm like, "Oh, there's drugs in there." So
it's so awesome. All a game.
It is.
And that's what's so cool about him. So what is your current dog is Tank?
It's Tank.
What is? Does he have a tug? Does he have a ball? What do you use as his reward?
His reward is actually a tug. Sometimes I'll transition back to a Kong because he likes the throwing and the running after it. But the tug, he loves to play tug, and he likes the win a lot. Which actually, so we have come into a little bit of he likes to challenge me every once in a while. So we use, and I know again some of yours may not agree with this. We use pinch collars, and we also use the prongs.
Oh, my viewers agree with me.
Okay, good.
It's the Karens that don't agree with me, but that's okay.
Well, your Karens,
we love them too.
Yeah. But we also use we have a policy where we have to have the e-collar on them, which is an electric collar. It doesn't. it hurt. It doesn't feel good because I've tried it on myself, and
Sure.
it doesn't feel good.
No,
but
it's discomforting.
It gets their attention.
It's no worse than sticking your finger in a light socket. Everybody's had it happen before, and nobody died from it, so I'm sure we're okay.
But for liability reasons, if my dog is attached to somebody and he's not coming off, I got to remind him because they get tunnel vision just like you and I would.
Worse, I think, than a human.
Oh yeah, because they're in the heat of the moment. It's like, oh, this is so fun.
Yep.
And it's like Los, and I don't want to be yelling 15 times. Los, Los,
100%. Yeah.
So sometimes we have to use the e-collar. Not very often. That's why we train so often, because I've got to make sure that my dog is proficient whenever I tell him to release in the field.
It's a safety thing.
It is,
and it's not you don't put the collar on the dog to be mean to the dog. I do it to actually help the dog.
Yeah.
So when he does lose track of what he's supposed to be doing and he can't focus on that, I can get him focused back on me.
Right.
Stop it! I told you to Los, let him go. We're done. Yeah. So we're not putting him in a situation where he might have to get put down because he's considered vicious or dangerous or something like that. All my clients, if we go off leash, are always going to use e-collar. Always going to use e-collar. Dog's completely trained. It's just another deterrent for doing something bad.
Oh yeah.
When the dog knows it's not supposed to, and now the dog's like, well, you can make me stop, so I will.
And these are smart dogs. I mean, they know, because I've had it where I've just put my e-collar on my dog and it's not even turned on. But as soon as I pull that remote out.
And they look at how many times your dog got the collar on, but he's looking at your hand to see if you're actually holding it.
Yep.
Hunter, I've got a client that does it. He runs a really high speed Dutchie, and that collar's on the dog, and he used to have it in his hand. Well, the dog would just sit there and look at his hand, and he could tell because you know how you kind of move your hand to hit it. Yeah. So as soon as he started to move his hand, he'd stop doing the behavior. So he had to start putting his hand in his pocket and controlling it in the pocket, so the dog couldn't even see he had had a hold of it.
Yeah, they're smart dogs.
Dogs are way smarter than people give them credit for.
Yep.
Way smarter than they give them credit for.
We were on we were blessed to be able to go on the America's Top Dog.
Yep.
If your viewers are bored, they can look that up. It's horrible. I mean, it was embarrassing. But at the same time, I told the producer, I was like, listen, and some of the dogs out there, they had some prior. I mean, they knew what they were going to do, and not to make excuses, but we had recently had a death. One of our officers was killed in the line of duty. So I really didn't have a whole lot of time to prepare my dog.
Right.
But like I told the producer, I said, my dog is a working dog. He will perform in the field. Here, this is a lot different. And whenever it's time to do it, I mean, we had some time to train on the set and make sure that they were going to do certain things. And he did okay at the time. I knew the problems he was going to have. But what really messed everything up was the Top Dog is very similar to American Ninja Warrior. So they kind of talk about who you are and all that in the beginning. And when they start, they'll do this loud buzzer, and that's time to go. So I told the producer, I said, do not let the audience, whatever you do not let them clap. Because what they were doing, they'd give the announcement, the audience would cheer. They had an audience over here. And this is like 2 o'clock in the morning out in the valley. They said, okay, we won't do that. My wife was in the audience too, so she knew. And they give us the announcements, and all of a sudden, what does everybody do?
Clap their hands
Whoa, yeah! And I'm like, oh no. Because I see Bullet, he turns to them, he looks at them, I'm like, oh no, this is not going to be good. So we started, and everything just fell apart. I mean, I ended up having to take him across the water. And he peed on a bush, and on national TV, I'd already taken him for a break, like I'm supposed to, but he decided, I'm just going to do what I want to do. But it was a great time. We had a fun time, and there's a lot of amazing handlers that I got to meet, and just some amazing dogs. But yeah, once in a lifetime deal.
That's very cool, though.
But it was embarrassing. It was horrible.
Well, not everything can go perfectly.
Yeah, you're right.
But You got to do it. That's more than a lot of people got to do.
That's true. Yeah, and we got paid for it.
So
and Bullet got to ride in first class.
Hey,
on an airplane.
That's kind of cool. Anybody scared when they saw him?
No, they were like, oh, that's so cool. He's a cool dog, and we got to tell him the story and all that. And so he was on. I think we gave him some. Was it value for the flight?
Chill him a little bit.
Chill him out. Oh yeah.
That's pretty cool though. So. Yep, I remember. I watched it.
You remember what you were thinking about?
No.
Okay.
I don't. Yeah. It's one of those deals. That's why I said it's really loose. It's just ad-lib the whole thing. And then sometimes you know something, sometimes you forget something, and that's just the way it goes. Yeah. So
But yeah, no. As far as training goes, I mean, it's important, and your clients know this, and even your the viewers looking at this. You have got to train your dog constantly. It's not I'm going to teach him one time and we'll be done. No, you're constantly training this dog, and everybody's got to be on the same page. Because that's one thing I tell some of my friends that have gone through you. I was like, you have when you're training your dog. You can't have mom doing this and dad doing this because the dogs have conflicted. And it was, well, what am I doing? I'm supposed to do this. I'm supposed to do that.
Yep.
You got to be on the same page.
Yeah. Consistency is definitely key in being successful long term. I talk to my clients a lot about, I don't like the word trained because I don't feel like dogs are trained. I think they're too smart to be trained. They are managed.
Yeah.
I teach them a skill. They're educated. They're smart. 3 to 5 year old, the capacity of, I tell people, a 5-year-old child. Anything a 5-year-old child can understand or do, I can probably get my dog to do it if I know what to do and how to get the dog to perform or do that. So any expectation I have of a 5-year-old, I can have of my dog. But once I teach them a skill, that doesn't mean they're going to do it every time.
Right.
That means from time to time they're going to challenge that and say, no, I want to do it my way. It's like a 5-year-old kid. No, I want to do it my way. I'm not going to do it. I don't want to today. Blah, 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 blah. And it's those moments and times that define what the rest of that relationship is going to look like, because I can't put myself in a position where I'm like, all right, I'll let you do it this time, buddy.
Right.
Because then he's going to look at you next time and go, I want to do that one again. That was way better.
Yep.
And I think that's so important that people understand it. It's managing that. It's constantly putting myself in a position where I'm looking for a little extra work. It's like you said, we cleared a building, everything's safe. I'm waiting for the owner to come down and lock it up. That could be 20 minutes. Hey, let's set something up and go run something. That's huge. I mean, that's why I tell my clients on walks. I mean, don't just go for a walk. You know how boring that is for a dog, right?
Yeah.
So let's run some recalls. Let's do some jogging. Let's do some angle changes or direction changes. Let's throw in some basic obedience. Let's make that dog brain work a little bit. Let's tire him out that way. We're not going to walk fast enough to cardiovascularly exercise him. So work the brain. Yeah. That's what controls the dog, and then understanding that it is just like a child. They need that supervision to stay in the box and know what they're supposed to do. And I use that analogy a lot with my clients, and they might have used that back when you trained too. Is the dog goes in a box, and that box has what he's supposed to do: find drugs, find the bad guy. That's all that's in the box. Everything outside the box is my job.
Right.
I handle all that. So then he can just focus solely on that. And I tell my clients that too. Just put your dog in a box. He doesn't need to worry about everything going on in the world. He just needs to worry about you. You'll handle all that. That's your job. And then put themselves in a position where they just do some work. It's amazing to me how many people think it's, we trained them. We're done. Never have to worry about that again. They'll be perfect every day.
Not so much.
Not so much. Once a week, you have a dedicated day of training. That's crazy, right? And that's not like 30 minutes. That's a day of training.
Yeah, we're talking 8 hours. Now it's not constant.
Right.
8 hours of just train. Because these dogs, they get tired and they've got to have a break. So once they have that break, you let them rest a little bit, and then you continue with your whatever you're going to be doing that day. So
I remembered. Do you remember when we went out to the Dallas training facility? Do you remember his handler wanted to be like, because he was just a nose dog, right? Single purpose?
Yeah, he was single. Yep.
And the new handler wanted to make him a dual purpose? You remember all that? You remember that?
Because we had dabbled to see if we could do something like that, yeah.
So we were messing with him. Mm-hmm. And what did he have to do? If he wanted his dog to bite, he had to be able to do what?
Oh, shit.
Take a hit, right?
Oh, yeah.
He had to put the sleeve on, right?
The sleeve. Yep.
Do you remember that whole thing?
It's been a long time.
Okay, so I'm going to refresh your memory because this was one of the most funny. I talk about this one a lot. This one was funny because I'm a little older than you. So back when I trained, it was even a little bit more old school. Okay, so it was Bullet, and you took that sleeve out, and we were talking to the other officer, but you had that sleeve right outside the window, and Bullet is just in your car, already starting to just
salivating.
He is just like, oh my gosh. So we give it to him, and he was a big guy. I mean, he was 6 foot, right? 6 foot, 220.
Man. Okay, keep going.
He was our UC guy at the time.
Yeah, but I'm trying. I think I know who you're talking about.
Had a big beard for a long time.
Okay, yeah. Yes.
He's a big boy.
Yes, he is.
Right?
Yeah. I'm not gonna say his name.
But right, I understand. Yeah, that's why I'm. But he put. You don't remember this, do you? You're like, back up. And you kept making him back up further. And he had the arm pad on, and he's like hitting it like it's a baseball mitt. Yep. All right, let's go. Let's send him. And you don't remember, do you? You had Bullet between your legs, dude, and he's throwing rock.
Oh,
he is literally throwing rock.
Because we were showing him this is what Kendo could do.
Right.
Yeah. Yes,
but
I do remember that.
He was so amped, dude. I mean, and by the time you let him go, I think his first step was like 12 feet. Boom, and he was gone. And I just remember the guy went from looking, all of a sudden he went,
uh-oh.
And we were like, lean into it. Because he was just standing there. It was like, lean into it. Yeah. And he hit him, and I mean, almost took him all the way to the ground. And dude's like 220, and Bullet was what, 65?
80.
80?
80 pounds.
Boom, hit him and almost took him to the ground. Now, this is what's funny, because this is what we were thinking about, because you're talking about the e-collar and getting the oust. Do you remember how we got him off?
I do not remember how he got it. Because he was one dog that we had problems getting him off the bike.
Yeah, and guess what he didn't have on at the time?
Oh, the e-collar.
You didn't put his e-collar on.
Oh, that's right. Yeah,
and we couldn't get him to come off.
Oh, yeah. How did we get him off? I forget.
You don't remember? I told you. I told you. So you want to go controversial? I told you. Here it comes. Right at the end of the last 60 seconds. I'm gonna hurt your feels. I was like, hang him, and you're like, do what? I'm like, hang him.
Oh, because he was on. Was he on the pinch? And so
yes,
yeah, we basically.
It wasn't the pinch. It was like that slip link one of the slip link ones.
Oh, the choke.
Yeah, the choke. Just a regular big choke.
Yeah.
I was like, hang him.
So basically, we just choked him out.
And you were like, I was like, give him to me. And I'm like, and I just remember him. I've like got him over my shoulder, and he's like,
yeah, you did. That's right.
I took him over my shoulder.
He wouldn't come off.
He was not releasing and coming off. And I just remember his eye is like right here looking at me like, no, I won't. I got him, and I'm not letting him go.
He's mine.
And I remember he finally had to catch air, and he did it so fast, he reattached and still had a slight bite on it. Oh, my God.
Son of a gun.
He was such an amazing dog, man. He served his city well, for sure.
Yeah, he did.
He really did.
He was a great dog.
He really was. He was an epitome of what I think all canine units should strive for. He was so balanced. He was so neutral. Yep. He was just, like you said, you could put him in a room full of second graders, or you could go up against the biggest, baddest drug thrower, slinger in town, and he's going to win all of it.
Yep.
So, hey, man, I really appreciate you being here.
Well, thanks for inviting me. This is fun.
I hope you enjoyed it, man. It's one of those deals that not everybody gets to hear about what you guys do and how you do it and kind of what that looks like. So I know everybody's going to find it super interesting. So I appreciate you very much, sir. Anytime, we'll have you back. We'll talk some more. Maybe we go shoot some cool video of your dog and let everybody see what he does and stuff like that.
Yeah, maybe I think you talked about a challenge when we talked earlier. So
let's see if I can fool the canine handler. Can the ex-canine handler fool the current canine handler? Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate it very much. Again, my name is Michael Hoskinson with K9 Control. This has been K9 Convos. Get your butts out there, train your dog, and be its alpha. We'll talk to you later. Bye.